Hey guys! Who here is a fan of Game of Thrones? I'm sure most of you have heard of the Eunuchs from the series, right? These mysterious and intriguing characters always pique our curiosity, which is why I decided to make this video explaining everything in detail about them. If you've ever wondered what a eunuch is, how they're castrated, and what their function is in Westeros, you've come to the right place. But don't worry, if you know nothing about the subject, like Jon Snow, I'll explain everything clearly and in a fun way so you can understand. And if you're thinking why on earth would someone castrate a man, believe me, that's just one of the questions we'll answer in this video. So get ready to dive into the world of Game of Thrones eunuchs and discover interesting facts about castration in different cultures throughout history. So if you're ready for this journey, don't forget to leave a like, share with your friends, and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my fun and informative videos. Let's go! What are eunuchs? Eunuchs are characters frequently mentioned in Game of Thrones, but what exactly are they in real life? Basically, a eunuch is a man who has had his male reproductive organs removed, which includes the testicles and, in some cases, the penis. This practice was common in many ancient cultures, and eunuchs played various roles, from servants in harems to guards in palaces. In the Western world, the castration of men was mainly practiced in the Middle Ages as a way to ensure the vocal purity of boys who would serve as singers in churches. These boys were known as castrati, and many became famous for their exceptional voices. But why would someone want to castrate a man? There are several reasons why castration was performed in different cultures throughout history. For example, in China, castration was often used as a way to gain access to positions of power. Chinese eunuchs were employed as servants of emperors, and many of them had significant political influence. In other cultures, castration was seen as a way to avoid sexual temptation and maintain moral purity. In medieval Europe, for example, boys were castrated so that their voices wouldn't change during puberty, making them capable of singing the higher parts of church music. In ancient Persia, eunuchs were used as guards in palaces because it was believed they would be less likely to be involved in political conspiracies. However, castration can also have severe consequences for a man's health and well-being. In addition to losing the ability to reproduce, removal of the testicles can cause a range of side effects, such as hormonal changes, decreased libido, loss of muscle mass, and increased risk of osteoporosis. Today, the practice of castration is widely considered unacceptable and is illegal in many countries. However, there are still cases of illegal castration in some parts of the world. In Game of Thrones, eunuchs play important roles in the story, such as the personal guard of Queen Daenerys Targaryen and the advisor to King Bran Stark. In the series, castration is portrayed as a brutal punishment for men who rebel against their lords or are captured in battle. However, the series also shows that castration can have profound consequences for a man's identity and psychology. Several characters, such as Varys and Theon Greyjoy, struggle with their lack of sexual organs and the feeling that they are not fully men. This reflection on castration in Game of Thrones makes us think about the nature of masculinity and how it is affected by our ability to reproduce. In summary, eunuchs are intriguing and complex characters who have an important role in the history of Game of Thrones. Although castration is a controversial practice and often seen as cruel today, it has played a significant role in many cultures throughout history. The portrayal of eunuchs in Game of Thrones makes us reflect on the nature of masculinity and the importance that our ability to reproduce has for our identity. Additionally, the series explores the psychological and emotional implications of castration, showing how it can deeply affect a man's life. Ultimately, the history of eunuchs is a reminder that cultural differences can lead us to practice things that are considered unacceptable in other contexts. But it is also a testament to human ability to adapt and find ways to fit into important roles, even when conditions are difficult. If you are a fan of Game of Thrones and want to learn more about the history of eunuchs, don't miss the series and explore the fascinating details about these intriguing characters. And if you enjoyed this content and want to keep up with more videos about Game of Thrones and other interesting topics, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. There, you will find many other fun and informative videos that will surprise you and make you reflect. So, don't waste time and subscribe right now. Eunuchs in Game of Thrones. Eunuchs in Game of Thrones is a fascinating and intriguing theme that has been an important aspect of the story since the beginning of the series. Let's take a deeper look at some of the most notable characters and how they fit into the world of Westeros. Varys, also known as the Spider, is the most well-known and intriguing character in the series. Played by Conleth Hill, he is one of the closest advisors to Queen Daenerys Targaryen and a master of spies. Varys was castrated as a child and has lived his life as a eunuch, which has given him a unique perspective on human nature. He is one of the few characters who does not seem to be motivated by the desire for power or revenge, but rather the pursuit of peace and stability for the Seven Kingdoms. His loyalty is questionable, and his mysterious past makes him even more intriguing. Another notable character is the master of slaves in Meereen, known only as Grey Worm. He is the leader of the Unsullied, an army of eunuchs who were castrated and trained from childhood to be perfect soldiers. Grey Worm was brought to the city of Meereen by Daenerys Targaryen and has become one of her most trusted and loyal advisors. His loyalty is unwavering, and he is a formidable warrior who has proved his worth in several battles. A third notable eunuch in the series is Grey Worm's brother, known as Red Worm. He is another Unsullied who was castrated as a child and spent his life fighting in gladiator arenas. Red Worm joined the Unsullied in Meereen and quickly became one of the group's leaders. He is a very interesting character because he is often portrayed as ruthless in battle but also shown to be very vulnerable in moments of emotional intimacy. This shows that, despite his warrior nature, he is still a human being and has deep and complex emotions. In contrast to these more noble characters, there are also characters like the Spice Traders, a group of eunuchs who are portrayed as cruel and sadistic. They are responsible for protecting the sacred sites of the city of Karth and often use their authority to subject visitors to humiliations and torture. The Spice Traders are an example of how castration can be used to create individuals who are as violent and brutal as any man. In addition to these specific characters, eunuchs in Game of Thrones are an important part of the story for several reasons. First, they are a demonstration of how castration has been used as a form of social control in various cultures throughout history. Second, they challenge the conventional idea that masculinity is linked to reproductive ability. And finally, they also present a unique perspective on life and society, as their lack of sexual desire may allow them to see the world more dispassionately and objectively. In the world of Game of Thrones, castration is often used as a form of social control. In the city of Meereen, for example, slaves are castrated so that they cannot have children and thus cannot form families and create social ties that could threaten the power of the ruling class. In addition, castration can be used as a form of punishment or reward, as is the case with the Unsullied, who are castrated and trained as elite soldiers but are also enslaved for the rest of their lives. The idea that masculinity is linked to reproductive ability is also questioned in the series. Eunuchs are a clear demonstration that a man can be strong, brave, and capable of fighting even without the ability to procreate. Additionally, their ability to live without the motivation of sexual desire may allow them to focus more on other aspects of life, such as politics, military strategy, and intelligence. In Game of Thrones, eunuchs also provide a unique perspective on life and society. Their lack of sexual desire may allow them to see the world in a more dispassionate and objective way, without the distractions and emotions that often accompany sexual desire. This can make them more capable of making rational and strategic decisions, as well as understanding human nature and the motivations behind people's actions. In summary, the eunuchs in Game of Thrones are fascinating and complex characters that add an extra layer of depth to the series. They are a demonstration of how castration can be used as a form of social control, challenge the conventional idea that masculinity is linked to reproductive ability, and provide a unique perspective on life and society. The series also shows that despite their lack of sexual desire, eunuchs are human beings with deep and complex emotions, capable of loyalty, love, and compassion. It is hard not to be fascinated by the presence of eunuchs in Game of Thrones, and we hope to have shed some light on these intriguing characters. If you want to learn more about Game of Thrones and other interesting topics, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay tuned for more fascinating content. Eunuchs in real history. Despite all the fame that eunuchs achieved in fiction, the truth is that they were also an important part of real history. Castration was practiced in many ancient cultures as a way of keeping control over men and ensuring their loyalty to kings and emperors. In China, for example, castration was a common practice for many centuries. Eunuchs were often employed as personal guards to the emperors, as it was believed they would have no personal interests or ambitions that could interfere with their duty to protect the emperor. They were also responsible for supervising the emperor's women, including concubines and wives, and ensuring that they did not have contact with men who were not eunuchs. In ancient India, eunuchs were known as hijras and were considered sacred. They were often employed in religious and social functions, such as singing at weddings and other important events. Although they were not systematically castrated, many underwent castration procedures to become hijras and obtain a respected position in society. In ancient Rome, eunuchs were known as gallus and were often employed as guards and administrators. Castration was a common practice for slaves who worked in imperial administration to ensure that they could not have children who could claim inheritance or power rights. Eunuchs were often used as spies and diplomats, as it was believed they had no personal interests that could interfere with their duties. Despite the importance that eunuchs had in history, it is important to remember that castration is a cruel and inhumane practice. No one should have the right to control another person's body in this way, which is why castration is prohibited in virtually every country in the world today. However, it is interesting to learn about how ancient societies dealt with issues of power, loyalty, and sexuality, and eunuchs are a fascinating example of this. Conclusion. And we have reached the end of this video about eunuchs in Game of Thrones and real history. I hope it has been an informative and fun journey, with lots of humor and curiosity. We have seen that eunuchs were very present in various ancient societies, including China, India, and the Ottoman Empire. Moreover, they had very important roles in the court, such as guards, administrators, and even advisors. In fiction, Game of Thrones presented us with remarkable characters such as Varys and Ser Gregor Clegane, who made us question our prejudices against eunuchs. They showed us that these men are not just castrated, but have skills and intelligence worthy of respect. However, we also learned that the life of a eunuch is not always easy, especially in a world as brutal and unfair as Westeros. They can be seen as freaks and targets of jokes and cruelty. Therefore, it is important to remember that forced castration is a violation of human rights and should be fought against. No person should be deprived of their right to choose their own destiny and have a fulfilling life. Finally, I hope this video has expanded your knowledge about eunuchs, both in fiction and reality. Remember to subscribe to my channel for more interesting content like this, and don't forget to leave your comment about what you thought of the video. Until next time, folks.
If you liked the content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'll stay here until next time.